Catching every single Pokemon in any Pokemon game is a really hard thing to do, which is probably why Pokemon themselves abandoned it as a catchphrase years ago. But if there's a place where concepts like gotta catch 'em all live on for decades, it's in the world of speedrunning. And with the newest game, Pokemon Legends EA, we have managed to create an absolute spectacle of creativity to catch all 230 Pokemon in an impressive 9 hours. But what makes that amount of time even more impressive is the conditions and strategies involved in a catch-em-all speedrun. Because you don't just start off a catch-em-all speedrun with every resource available on a finished save file. Instead, you have to start completely from scratch and even go as far as to beat the game's story and clear its post-game, which adds up to about 4 hours of mandatory cutscenes, dialogue, and character development. And to add on to having to track and catch a total of 230 Pokemon scattered across the game's rooftops, 20 wild zones, and other obscure areas, having a game plan is a hard thing to come by. But in a field of infinite possibilities and doubts, one challenger with more than 10 years of experience was willing to try. And his name was Shenanigans.
Close your eyes if you care, chat.
Oh, love of God.
While folks like Worcester paved his Pokemon legacy through speedruns that beat the game's story, Shenanigans was right beside him, defining his legacy through catching. And the more Shen would catch in one game, the more he'd crave catching it in another, until eventually modern-day Pokemon games started to call his name, eventually leading to the release of Pokemon Legends EA. Where upon beating the game for the first time, his game plan to do a catch-em-all speedrun was simple. He would first need to experience beating the game's story as fast as possible. Then once Shen had learned to do just that, he could split off the beaten path to plan out the best ways to catch everything along the way. And with those 10 years of experience catching them all, it would only take 2 days before the plan was finally put into action. But not in the way you might expect, because Shen wouldn't start this journey off alone, as he would test his theories in a co-op speedrun by incorporating the help of 360 Chrism. This test netted Shen and Chrism a final time of above 10 hours. But the wild part about Shen's journey to catch 'em all is when he split off to do it all by himself, he immediately beat that time by more than an hour.
Easy sub 10, dude. Let's get sub 10 first run. Not bad, not bad.
The way he achieved this started by picking Totodile and using the traded Heracross boys for the game's battles, both of which are the best Pokemon for speedrunning the 80% category and work just as well for a catch-em-all. And when it came to the catching side of the run, much of the strategy Shen used was shaped around a select few Pokemon that needed a ton of levels such as Dratini, Larvitar, and Gible. Because if he caught any of these Pokemon too late, they wouldn't level up in time to beat the game. But if he caught them too early, he'd waste time going out of his way to grab them at an inopportune time when he could have just waited till the game's story put him closer to it. So the timing had to be just right. The same can be said for Pokemon in the Wild Zones, where the best time to catch them typically came down to when Battle Zone in the ZE Royale spawned fairly close to Wild Zones. But to make sure he had the best odds of catching all these Pokemon, Shen would always attempt to land back strikes, which give a nice bonus to help catch a Pokemon when you hit the back of them with a Pokeball. And if it didn't get in the ball from just that, he would instead knock it out and use the new stun feature to attempt to catch it that way instead. Aside from those catching issues, there were quite a few instances where Pokemon just didn't spawn in when he needed him to. But through the use of benches, flying, or just getting 50 units away from a Pokemon's spawn radius, it would just be a matter of brute forcing respawns until they eventually showed up. The other spawns that Shen would need to account for were day spawns, night spawns, and spawns that were tied to specific weather conditions. And since all these spawns couldn't exactly be accounted for all in one go with the ridiculous amount of them, timing once again was key to obtaining all of them, especially those weather condition spawns. Now I imagine you're probably thinking, why not just go to a bench? But the reason this is a problem is because weather has no real good feasible way to be forced or controlled no matter how much you reload on a bench. But one way or another, Shen made it happen for all those things and more, including Pokemon that are normally only available through trading like Trevenant, Gourgeist, Gengar, Alakazam, Steelix, and Machamp, all of which could be obtained as alpha Pokemon with the exception of Scizor, Slurpuff, and Aromatisse, making a single-player catch-em-all not technically a catch-em-all, but what is known as an all-obtainable Pokemon speedrun, which gives people who just want to catch every possible Pokemon by themselves a speedrun category to be able to do that in. And that would be where Shen's focus would be from this point forward, as he clearly was not anywhere near done breaking apart Legends EA's PokeDex.
Nice, let's go. Nice 15-minute improvement, roughly. Not doing 9-12.
Despite being an entire 12 minutes off after 2 weeks, earning this time would be where Shen started to believe that it might just be possible to catch every Pokemon by himself in under 9 hours. But to do it, he would need to revisit any percent for the next 3 days to better understand what it takes to clear the story even faster, then go back and apply that to catch 'em all, which ended up culminating in something magical on the day of November 12th, 2025. But before we dive into that part of the run, have you ever wanted to learn programming? Because today's sponsor, Boot.dev, makes it super easy and an absolute blast. For those unaware, Boot.dev is a website that teaches you programming with a super fun level up system, where you get rewarded for problem solving programming specific questions that get harder and harder as you progress. As someone who wanted to learn programming to help figure out complicated Pokemon stuff, but finds programming to be very tedious and overwhelming to understand, Boot.dev provided me with a really neat way to actually learn and understand the entire thing. I kid you not when I say that I stayed up for like an hour or two just having fun playing through these courses, learning the intricacies of what it takes to code things like losing health in a video game, which very much felt like I was actually playing a game about coding in Python. And given Python is the most popular coding language in the world, aspiring coders looking to start need to check out Boot.dev. I seriously cannot speak enough volumes for how smooth the transition between each lesson is, building upon your knowledge until it feels like you really got the hang of it. But if you don't got the hang of it, you can just ask the Boot.dev assistant Boots for some help, and they'll put you right back on track. That's something I love about Boots, by the way, is that it doesn't outright give you the answer, but will instead push you towards problem solving the little things you don't get until you finally do understand, which is a way better way of learning. So if you just so happen to have your sights on a nicely paid job and want a career in back-end development, or you just want to try programming for fun like me, then look no further than Boot.dev. Be sure to check out and click my link in the description or scan the QR code on screen and use code PulseEffects for 25% off your entire first year on the annual plan. The start of this run began as per usual, with the first hour clearing stories super fast in an attempt to reach all the wild zones as fast as possible. During this time, Shen would not miss a single beat clearing most of Wild Zones 1 and 2. But for Wild Zones 3, things got a bit more interesting. Here, Shen would prioritize only catching Flabebe and Pikachu while ignoring the rest of the Pokemon. The reason being is because Pikachu is required to trade for boys to immediately clear a mandatory side mission, while everything else in Zone 3 could be caught later, since the post-game requires you to return to Zone 3 to catch or defeat an Alpha Steelix later on. Then once the first hour had come and gone, Shen would be earning ranks X through F from story progression, then head straight into Wild Zone 4 to catch a bunch of Ghost and Bug Pokemon, while completing a side mission to spawn in Pokemon like Sableye. It would then be here where Shen would start to use subtle strategies to fill up his party and evolve things through battling along the way to rank F like Magikarp and Patrat, as well as grabbing notable evolution items, EXP candies, and Pokeballs that can minimize rough RNG. All of which was done while catching Pokemon that were conveniently nearby like Bellsprout, Pidgey, or Venipede around Zone 5, then after some ZA Royale progress, head towards Pansage, Abra, or final evolutions like Vivillon. Which brings up an interesting case where Shen could technically evolve its first form, Scatterbug, straight to Vivillon, but with the time it takes to put into your party, take it out, then watch it evolve, catching just ends up being outright faster, but can be a bit too risky in some cases like Gyarados. And so, throughout the next couple of hours, Shen started to take a lead on his personal best by using newly thought up strategies like obtaining Dratini after rank F.
Please attack. Didn't know if it was going to attack in time. 92%? Okay.
Then go full force into the game's story using his newly found any percent skills to obliterate all rogue Mega Evolution raid battles faster, leading him directly into an almost 4-minute lead. While the story is an important piece of the run, the catching and evolving was even more important, which is why when the story pulled Shen into Kanari's location for rank E, the timing could not be better for exchanging all the purple glowing colorful screws he had picked up along the way for a permanent boost to make catching every Pokemon easier. Doing so would undoubtedly save time, as long as Shen's memory and knowledge around where to catch Pokemon held up. So, to make sure he had a game plan during every section, Shen would read his speedrunning notes and state out loud every little thing he needed to do to stay on track, putting him in a beautiful flow state to carry his already growing lead even further.
All right, scary part of the run coming up here. I need to make it into the sewer before it goes to daytime. So I have a long segment that I need to kind of rush through here. Alright, first things first, we need to catch the Covenant. I think I did it. I think that was everything I needed. That felt pretty good. I really need a lucky Gibble right now, man. Oh, I really hope I make this in time. Give me that. Technically a nice bonus of this. Yeah, I'm still like 3 minutes ahead, I think.
With the game plan Shen had put together at this point, the journey from rank E through D was where Shen's catch count inflated to nearly triple digits, as he had actually made it inside of the sewers to catch everything he could with success, plowed through the fight with Ivar for rank E, caught all he could in zones 12, 10, and 15, then just as he obliterated rank D, the cleanup he had done shot him straight to 97 Pokemon caught. And with all the EXP he had earned from the Rogue Megas and story battles, the hardest to evolve Pokemon were getting closer and closer to their final form, eventually providing Shen with a 7-minute lead. But the rest of the time save needed to achieve a sub-9 speedrun would have to come from getting smooth catches on common spawns and decent ZA Royale luck, while also getting just lucky enough with rare spawns like Alpha Alakazam and Machamp. But the most defining thing of them all would come down to Rain needed to spawn in Gumi. And Shen knew that that was the exact condition he needed to finish the run, as he caught another 9 Pokemon, pushing his lead farther and farther into a 15-minute lead, a 20-minute lead, and even as far as a 30-minute lead once he finally evolved Dratini into their final forms. But the thing is about time save in long categories such as Catch-em-all is how misleading time save can look, because different runs catch or experience different things at different paces. And the reality of this run was that Shen was apparently 33 entire catches behind where he should actually be.
I mean, technically, I'm 30 Pokemon behind, and that's it. So if I can catch a Pokemon in a minute, I'm way ahead, and you can catch way more than one per minute.
But as you can see, his confidence was still there as he was wrapping up the final battle sections, evolving and catching a ton of stuff in Lysander's Cafe, and pushing through wild zones during the night like Zone 12, Zone 19, then Zone 17 before swapping back to day spawns. And it would be at this point where weather actually started to roll in his favor, but not quite the rain that Shen was desperately looking for. Instead, it was the sun. But the benefits of the sun appearing out as weather actually add up to be a ton of time save. For instance, Pokemon like Eevee that need a total of 8 Eevees to get the full evolution line are much more common in the sun. The same can be said for Pokemon like Riolu, which can normally only be accessed via a trade unless you happen to come across sunny weather. Shen, knowing just how beneficial the sun was now on a timer to catch every beneficial Pokemon he could as fast as possible for as long as the sun would last.
I have a lot I have to do. The first is straight Drampa, check the weather. Please give me sun. Beautiful. Okay, it's gotta be Drampa because that's the most annoying. Sucks though, I have drought. I really want to do 18 while it's droughting, but I have to get here for Drampa. Where's the Drampa? Where's the Drampa? We're done. I need to do 18. That's QI and go. Oh, dude, this was miserable last run. Can we just please have a good 18? Don't troll me, Heracross. Just figure it out. You just, like, how do you miss a brick break, man? Like, come on. Please! Alright, I'm losing 2 minutes to Fennekin again. Hit it. That's how I should be doing it.
But by the skin of his teeth, Shen made it to Riolu and caught it, flew off to even more spawns to clean up what he had missed, then formed a really smooth path in and out of multiple zones for everything he could get his hands on until his total reached 129 registered Pokemon. The rest of the catches from here would be saved for the post-game, as the timer would finally start to show a more realistic amount of time save the moment that Shen earned rank A. And though he was still behind on catches, Shen having a 21-minute lead gave him a huge foundation to stand on for if things went bad in the postgame, which is, without a doubt, one of the worst sections when it comes to RNG. While a majority of the 90 Pokemon left were Pokemon that just needed to be evolved with items or levels, the ones that actually needed to be caught would likely provide Shen with a huge headache, 5 of which were really hard to catch alpha Pokemon spawns, 3 of which were legendary Pokemon, and the hardest, most RNG dependent Pokemon that had yet to be caught was Gumi. So, what could Shen possibly do to get through all that? Well, for the remaining duration of the run, a lot of the focus would need to be put on the final Wild Zone, Zone 20, and the rest towards the post-game story progression. And with each visit to Zone 20 came a chance at getting starter Pokemon, fully evolved Pokemon, and these 2 particular alpha Pokemon I mentioned before, all of which would be caught during the nighttime when possible to get good catch rates from the best Pokeballs, Dusk Balls. But with Shen only having a 5% chance to get what he wanted from the 2 alpha spawns in the center of Zone 20, it'd be a matter of complete luck whether or not the game would let him finish the catch-em-all speedrun. Luckily, however, Shen didn't actually have too much of a problem here getting what he needed from this zone on his very first visit, only having taken a few minutes to find Alakazam. From here, Shen chose not to camp for more spawns in Zone 20 until later, as he needed time to pass naturally in hopes of rain, and still needed to clear some of the Z Royale to push the story forward to obtain the 3 nasty alpha Pokemon, the legendary Xerneas, the legendary Yveltal, and finally, hope that Rain would grace Lumiose with just enough time to find Machamp and evolve everything left to evolve to reach his sub-9 goal. But just as Shen was beginning to think that this run was going to fail from a lack of rain, this happened.
Charmander, I need to be going to the other side. It's raining. Oh, thank God. Okay, this run can finish. Got rain. I didn't know if I'd get it by the end. I'm resetting for an alpha. It gave me its 5% per fly. 90% catch or something. 5? Oh, that's the min level. I'm fine. I can make it with what I have. Alright, we're fine. I made it. Everything else is pretty free. Alrighty. This is a good run. Like, no major mistakes. Just a little bit of, like, scuff in a few spots. This is a clean run with all we currently know about the game. 227. GG. 850.
And that is the story of how one man caught every Pokemon he possibly could by himself in under 9 hours, leaving us with a fantastic run to embrace Pokemon's original slogan through pure creativity and fun. And if you want to see more of that creativity, please go give Shen a follow on his Twitch and subscribe here as well for more speedrun stories like this one. Special thanks, by the way, to the many folks who support me over on Patreon. And special thanks once again to boot.dev for sponsoring this video. Be sure to check them out and use code PulseEffects for 25% off.